There's a moment that happens to every visitor in Malaysia, usually within the first few days, when they realize the rules here are different, not written down in guidebooks different, but embedded in the culture different, the kind of unspoken codes that separate respectful guests from oblivious tourists who leave trails of offense in their wake. I've watched travelers unknowingly insult entire families, seen friendships crack over seemingly innocent gestures, and witnessed locals' faces shift from warm hospitality to cold distance because someone crossed a line they didn't know existed. Malaysia's reputation for friendliness and tolerance is well-earned, but it's not unlimited. This is a country where three major cultures interweave with indigenous traditions, where religious sensitivity isn't political correctness but daily reality, where what seems casual to you might be deeply disrespectful to the person standing next to you. After years of watching both locals and visitors navigate these invisible boundaries, I've identified 7 things you should absolutely never do in Malaysia if you want to experience the country's genuine warmth rather than its polite but distant tolerance. Never, and I mean never, disrespect religion or religious practices in Malaysia. This isn't about being politically correct. It's about understanding that faith runs deep here in ways that secular societies have forgotten. Islam is the official religion, and you'll hear the call to prayer 5 times daily echoing across cities and villages. When that call sounds, Muslims pause their lives to pray, and you should respect that space without commentary, jokes, or impatient sighs. During Ramadan, eating, drinking, or smoking in public view of fasting Muslims isn't illegal for non-Muslims, but it's profoundly inconsiderate. You'll see Malays, Chinese, and Indians practicing their faiths openly, temples and mosques and churches existing side by side, and this peaceful coexistence depends on mutual respect. Don't photograph people praying without permission. Don't treat religious sites like Instagram backdrops. Don't make jokes about any religion, even ones you belong to, because humor that lands in your home country can cause genuine offense here. Remove your shoes before entering mosques and temples. Dress modestly when visiting religious sites. And if you're invited to someone's home during a religious festival, show gratitude and respect for rituals you might not understand. Never touch someone's head or point with your feet. And this rule trips up Western visitors constantly because it seems arbitrary until you understand the cultural logic behind it. In Malaysian culture, heavily influenced by Malay and Indian traditions, the head is considered the most sacred part of the body, while feet are the lowest and most unclean. That cute gesture of ruffling a child's hair, don't do it unless you know the family extremely well. Patting someone on the head, even affectionately, can genuinely offend. Similarly, never point at people or object with your feet. Never step over someone sitting on the ground, and never, ever touch anything sacred or hand someone something using your feet. When sitting on the floor, tuck your feet beneath you or to the side rather than pointing them at people. If you accidentally touch someone with your foot, apologize immediately. This extends to showing the soles of your feet, which is why you'll notice Malaysians sitting in specific positions that keep their feet oriented respectfully. These rules might seem excessive, but they're deeply embedded in the culture, and violating them marks you as either ignorant or disrespectful. Never use your left hand for eating, greeting, or giving and receiving items, especially in more traditional settings. The left hand is considered unclean in both Malay and Indian cultures because it's traditionally used for bathroom hygiene. When you eat with your hands, which you'll do with nasi campur, banana leaf rice, or during communal meals, use only your right hand. When you greet someone with a handshake, extend your right hand. When giving or receiving money, gifts, or business cards, use your right hand or both hands together. Never just your left. If you're left-handed, this takes conscious effort and practice. Most Malaysians will forgive tourists who forget, but in more traditional communities or when meeting elders, using your left hand can cause genuine discomfort. Watch how locals interact and mirror their behavior. You'll notice they naturally default to right-hand interactions, sometimes touching their right elbow with their left hand when reaching across distances, a gesture that shows respect and mindfulness. Never criticize the royal families. And this one surprises people from countries where monarchs are tabloid fodder and constitutional decorations. Malaysia has 9 royal families, and each state sultan commands genuine respect and legal protection. There are actual sedition laws that criminalize insulting royalty, and yes, people have been arrested and charged for social media posts critical of sultans or the Yang di Pertuan Agong. the rotating king. You might find this absurd. You might think monarchy is outdated. You might want to discuss the contradiction between royal privilege and democratic values. But save those conversations for when you're safely outside Malaysia. Even among Malaysians, criticism of royalty happens only in trusted circles and hushed tones. The reverence runs deeper than law. For many Malaysians, especially Malays, the royal families represent cultural continuity and symbolic unity. When royalty passes through areas, traffic stops, people line streets, respect is shown. You don't have to understand it or agree with it, but you absolutely must respect it while you're here. Keep your opinions about monarchy to yourself. Don't make jokes, and definitely don't post anything critical on social media. Never assume Malaysia is just like Thailand, Indonesia, or Singapore, because this lazy lumping of Southeast Asian countries into an undifferentiated blob drives Malaysians absolutely crazy. Malaysia has a distinct identity, history, culture, and trajectory that deserves recognition on its own terms. Don't ask if Malaysians speak Thai or assume Malaysian food is just like Indonesian food, or expect everything to resemble Singapore. The countries share some cultural DNA and historical connections, but they've evolved into genuinely different places with different strengths, challenges, and characters. Malaysians are proud of their unique multiculturalism, the specific way Islam is practiced here, the distinctive Manglish language that code switches between English, Malay, Chinese dialects, and Tamil, the food culture that doesn't exist anywhere else quite like this. When you collapse Malaysia into generic Southeast Asia, you're telling Malaysians their distinctiveness doesn't matter, that you couldn't be bothered to learn anything specific about their country. Do basic research. Learn some actual fact about Malaysia specifically. Recognize that KL is in Bangkok and Penang is in Bali, and Malaysians will appreciate the effort to see them clearly rather than through a haze of regional stereotypes. Never engage in public displays of affection beyond hand-holding, especially in more conservative areas, and definitely anywhere near religious sites. Malaysia occupies complex middle ground between conservative religious values and modern urban cosmopolitanism, and navigating relationship boundaries requires reading your environment carefully. In trendy KL neighborhoods like Bangsar or Bukit Bintang, young couples walk hand in hand without issue, but passionate kissing, heavy petting, or draped all over each other behavior will attract disapproving stares and potentially intervention from religious authorities in some states. For LGBTQ plus couples, the situation is far more restrictive and frankly unjust. Homosexuality remains criminalized in Malaysia, though enforcement is rare and more targeted at Muslims under Sharia law. Still, same-sex couples should avoid any public affection and be aware that acceptance varies dramatically between urban and rural areas. This isn't advice on what's right or fair. It's pragmatic reality about keeping yourself safe and avoiding confrontation. Malaysia's conservatism can feel suffocating if you're from more liberal societies, but pushing boundaries as a visitor serves no one and can create genuine legal problems. Never litter, spit, or show casual disregard for public spaces. And yes, I know Malaysia itself struggles with cleanliness and waste management in many areas, but that doesn't give visitors license to contribute to the problem. Malaysians, especially the younger generation, are increasingly conscious of environmental issues and frustrated with pollution, plastic waste, and the degradation of natural spaces. When tourists treat Malaysia as a place where rules don't apply, where you can toss cigarette butts anywhere, leave trash on beaches, or spit openly on streets, you're confirming the worst stereotypes about entitled visitors who take local hospitality for granted. Use bins when available. Carry your trash until you find proper disposal. Don't throw anything from moving vehicles. And if you're at natural sites like beaches or rainforests, leave them cleaner than you found them. The haze, the plastic choke rivers, the flash flooding partially caused by clogged drains. These are real problems affecting real people's lives and health. Show that you care about the country you're visiting by treating its environment with respect, even when systemic issues make that feel like a symbolic gesture. The common thread running through all these rules is simple: respect. Respect for religious belief in a deeply faithful country. Respect for cultural practices that might seem foreign to you. Respect for political realities that exist whether you agree with them or not. Respect for Malaysia's distinct identity rather than lazy regional stereotypes. Respect for social norms around public behavior. And respect for the environment that makes this country beautiful. Malaysia's famous hospitality isn't automatic. It's a response to how you present yourself, how much effort you make to understand the culture you're entering, how willing you are to adapt rather than expecting the country to accommodate your every preference. The Malaysians who go out of their way to help lost tourists, who invite strangers to festival celebrations, who share food and stories and warmth, they're responding to genuine curiosity and respect. When you violate these unspoken rules, whether through ignorance or arrogance, that warmth evaporates, replaced by the polite but distant tolerance reserved for visitors who don't care enough to learn. Understanding what not to do in Malaysia matters, as much as knowing what to see and eat. These boundaries aren't arbitrary obstacles designed to frustrate visitors. They're windows into values that shape Malaysian life, the importance of religious harmony in a multi-faith society, the cultural logic that determines respectful interaction, the historical and political context that explains sensitivities around royalty and criticism. When you honor these boundaries, even imperfectly, you signal that you see Malaysians as real people with legitimate cultural values rather than as exotic backdrops for your travel experience. You'll make mistakes. Everyone does, and most Malaysians will graciously forgive tourists who err out of ignorance rather than malice. But the effort to learn, to observe how locals behave and mirror that behavior, to ask questions respectfully when you're uncertain, that effort transforms your relationship with the country from superficial tourism to genuine cultural exchange. The Malaysia you experience depends entirely on how you approach it. Rush through hitting Instagram-famous locations while ignoring social norms, and you'll get a sanitized, transactional version of the country, beautiful but shallow. Take time to understand the cultural logic. Respect the rules even when they seem strange. Show genuine curiosity about why things work the way they do, and Malaysia opens up in ways that will surprise you. The uncle at the hawker stall will spend 30 minutes explaining the history of his char kway teow. The family at the temple will invite you to join their prayers and explain the significance of each ritual. The locals will steer you toward hidden gems no guidebook mentions. Malaysia rewards respect with access, and following these rules isn't about restricting your experience, but about unlocking the authentic version that most tourists never see. The irony is that many of these rules that seem restrictive at first actually create the conditions for Malaysia's remarkable harmony. The religious respect that limits some behaviors also enables mosques, temples, churches, and gurdwaras to coexist peacefully. The formality around greetings and interactions creates social cohesion across ethnic groups that might otherwise remain separated. The restrictions on political speech, however frustrating, have arguably prevented the kind of sectarian violence that tears other diverse nations apart. You don't have to love every aspect of Malaysian culture, but you should recognize that these rules serve purposes beyond simple tradition. They're part of the social architecture that makes Malaysia function. By respecting them, even as an outsider, you're participating in that architecture rather than undermining it. This is a new channel dedicated to helping you experience Malaysia authentically, not just a filtered tourism board version, but the real cultural landscape with all its complexity, beauty, and occasional frustration. If this guide helped you understand the invisible boundaries that shape Malaysian life, your support helps me create more honest, practical content about navigating this incredible country. Hit that like button if you appreciate real talk about cultural differences. Subscribe for more insights into Malaysian culture and travel, and drop a comment sharing your own experiences with cultural misunderstandings or the moments when you got it right. Let's build a community of travelers who actually care about the places they visit, who respect local culture even when it challenges their assumptions, and who understand that the best travel experiences come from humility, curiosity, and genuine respect for the people who call these places home.